Hey everybody, welcome back to the Career Cage and welcome back to a new episode. In this episode, we're going to be continuing what we did last episode when we took and we made this from scratch. It's a rocket nozzle that slips onto a firework tube that's going to be part of the DIY model rocket engine that I'm building and everything. And last episode we built this. And then we went ahead and made a two-piece silicone poor man's fiberglass reinforced mold. It's a two-piece mold that is reinforced just with some paper towels and resin. But anyway, there are about 2 or maybe even 3 different mixtures that I could mix up and pour into these mold with the resin to hopefully reduce some of the flame erosion on the actual throat of the nozzle. Anyway, everyone, let's go ahead and jump right into today's episode and let's get started with making just a regular one-piece resin nozzle with this thing. Anyway, let's get into it. Okay, before we get into molding, there was one thing I kind of wanted to talk about. Since this side of it, the diverging side, is the side that I did first with the regular silicone and naphtha mix, there was a fair amount of shrinkage, so the rocket nozzle that's coming out of this mold won't be a direct one-to-one with this nozzle. So one of these days I do want to take and make a legit mold with the molding silicone and everything. Anyway, for molding and everything, I was just going to rub Vaseline all up into the mold and everything, since I know that works with the resin. And then I was going to lather a bunch of Vaseline along the seam of the mold to hopefully fill up any gaps and keep everything from shrinking. To make it easier to mold and everything, and to hopefully not have any thermal runaway or anything like I did when making the nozzle, I'm going to try to pour each side most of the way up, and then I'm going to put the mold together and then pour the inside, while the other parts that I molded are still like gooey and soft and able to connect and stuff. Anyway, let me go ahead and get everything ready, and then I will bring you guys back when I am ready to start molding it. And I might mention a few other things, but anyway, let's get after it. Alright everyone, well, this thing is pretty much cured. It's still a little soft, but it'll be fine. So anyway, let me go ahead and break this apart and let's see if this thing works. Anyway, let's get after it. Alrighty everyone, well, this thing came out of the mold. It's still a little soft, so it still needs to cure some more, but there's obviously a couple little bubbles. For some reason now, I keep getting bubbles right here on the top, right where the air channel is. And then this second one right here also had a little bit of a bubble right there. But for the most part, it seems fine. So let me go ahead and set this aside, let it cure, and I think I'll make one more completely clear nozzle. Anyway guys, yeah, let's go ahead and make one more, and then I'll bring you guys back for I start to do the different mixtures to help with the flame erosion. So anyway, let me go ahead and do one more of these and we will be right back. Alright everyone, well, it's been a few days since the last casting. I got them lined up in order here. Now the first one, I went ahead and kind of drilled or bored out the hole in it, and I just used this clay tool, this clay sculpting tool. This is where I used to ream it out, and that size is a 732, and that is just barely under 1/4 inch. So one of the things I was going to do is play with the size of the nozzle a little bit, the throw of the nozzle. The first one was going to be just barely under 1/4 inch. This one is going to be at 1/4 inch exactly, and then this one's going to be just a little bit over 1/4 inch, closer to the original size, which I think was a 16th over 1/4 inch, whatever size that was. But anyway, one thing I noticed, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well, but the diverging cone, when I twist it, it kind of looks like it wobbles inside a little bit. So it kind of seems like the cone on the inside was tilted one way or a little bit. So, and that's with all of them. So that's something with the actual mold itself. So when it comes to that, one of these days, since I know this is like almost perfectly symmetrical, it's something that happened with the molding process. So one of these days I will go ahead and make a legit mold using the real molding silicone. Anyway, all I need to do is I need to bore out the holes and everything. And with these first two, which is kind of funny, on the first two I had air bubbles right at the air chamber and everything. So I'm gonna try to fill those up with some resin since they're right at a weak spot. And then the method that didn't have almost any bubbles was when I just poured the whole nozzle just all in one go and then vibrated the hell out of the mold to try to get as many air pockets out as possible. But yeah, anyway, that's the I guess you would call it the technique for it. So let me go ahead, bore these out, and then we will work on, before I get to the different mixtures that I can put in the resin to enhance the flame erosion resistance of it, I'm going to try just the regular resin nozzles as like a control, I guess you could say, and I got 3 as a test and everything. So I'm just gonna try to whip up some firework tubes as rocket engines. Since these are tests, I don't know if I want to cut these in half to try to save on rocket fuel stuff and everything. Anyway, let me go ahead and get all that stuff done off camera since it's the same old regular boring stuff, and we will come back when I got these fixed up, sanded up. Anyway, ain't nothing left to do but to do it, so let's get after it. Alright, well, the other day I went ahead and got the motors all filled up. I was able to fill one extra, so that might be another test one, but the weird thing is all the rest of them came out pretty much all the same color, and then this one is like extra dark for some reason. So that one I might set aside for another nozzle, since that one might be a little iffy on its parameters or its consistency and everything. So I'm going to split the nozzles in between 1, 3, and 4, and I'll save number 2 for later. But anyway, I went ahead and I coated the inside of the grain with like a modern smokeless powder mix that was just dissolved in some acetone, so hopefully it'll make the grain easier to light and everything. Anyway, about the only thing I need to do now is do some end caps. I was thinking of drilling some holes through the cardboard here since I got some space. I was going to drill some holes and everything and then fill it with then put some wires through it, some metal wires, and then fill it with some epoxy for the end closure and everything, and then just glue the nozzles on. So I basically just have to do some caps and then glue the nozzles on. I'm probably going to play with the cap on this one first since it's the test one. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Alright, well, I've got them all done and everything. I did this one first and everything. I did them sequentially like this. This one and this one is the ones that I was trying to dial in the drill size for the right size for the wire and everything. And the last one that you guys see me do, number 3, it's still soft enough that I was able to, and it was in the way of the holes, that I scooped some of it out and put plug of it. So this one, I'm going to be able to pour the resin right on it and everything. The rest of these still have that hole, so I'm gonna have to find something to plug or glue over it or something like that, and then I'll be able to pour resin and everything. But before that, I'm gonna have to, I want to take some thin super glue and glue the wires in, but also the thin super glue will help maybe like plasticize or like harden the cardboard and everything, help strengthen this end of it since I have poked quite a few holes in all of these. Anyway, let me go ahead and get started on all that, and then when we get done with that, I'll be able to grind off the nubs and do the nozzle, and then we'll be able to go to the next major step. Anyway, let's go ahead and get after it. Alrighty, well, we got them all nice and glued up, and I went ahead and I used some quick cure resin. This is 5-minute. I should have used like 10 or 30-minute epoxy because I just barely got this last one glued up before it started to get all gooey and everything. Anyway, yeah, I just need to go ahead and let them sit, and then I will be right back with the next thing to do. Anyway, let's get after it. Okay, let's go ahead and recap. Nozzle 1. This one has just a little under a 1/4 inch. I forget what it is. And it's on rocket motor number 3. And I did the motors. I made the motors in order of the numbers. Rocket nozzle number 2 is at a 1/4 inch and it's on number 4. And then number 3, rocket nozzle number 3 is on number 1, which rocket motor number 1 I did first, and this one has 83 grams while all the other 3 have pretty much exactly 80 grams of fuel in them. And a quick look at the tops is motor 1 nozzle 3 has the, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but the crossing end cap, and then the other 2 are the hashtag symbol kind of one, and this one is the one that doesn't have a paper plug or whatever for the core of it anyway. And these are using, I forget what size of wire these are, and these are using 0.041 or 1.04 millimeter wire, stainless steel aircraft wire, with some slow cure epoxy resin caps, and I glued in the rods with my super thin super glue, which kind of helped, I should say, like plasticize or almost like penetrate the cardboard, hopefully stiffening up the head enclosure. And then I just, epoxied the nozzle on. Hopefully this nozzle holds up pretty good because it's kind of thin in this area, and I attached it by sanding off the red stuff, which is kind of like, it's not wax paper, but it's got some sort of coating like that. I got it back down to just regular paper, and then I infused that, or I like stabilized or plasticized the cardboard with super glue, hardening it. Then I glued on the nozzle and everything. We're kind of getting a little bit long in this video just for this, and I would hate to I know majority of the main mission of this is to do the flame erosion test, but I would hate to waste these rockets on not measuring the thrust of them. So me and Google Gemini, the AI, has been working on thrust test stand, but it sucks because my scale, this scale, about the only scale I got, maxes out at 3,000 grams or just about 5 pounds. So I gotta figure out some way to use that or whatever. But anyway, next episode I'm going to be building the stand, the thrust test stand, the jig, let's call it the thrust jig. But yeah, next episode I'll be doing that, and then we can actually work on firing these bad boys and working on the other mixtures for the flame erosion. And put in the comments if you got any ideas on what I can mix into the resin before pouring into the mold so I can help with the flame erosion. Any ideas would be appreciated and stuff. And yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and end this episode. I'll see you guys next episode. Thank you all for like, share, and subscribe and comment, and I'll see you guys on the next one. See you later.